Eliezer shall not be thine heir, but a son who is your own flesh and blood will be your heir. Abram, look now toward heaven and count the stars, if indeed you can count them. So shall thy seed be. I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. I will be your God, and ye shall be my people. This covenant I make with thee, Abram.
That woman thinks her boy is going to inherit what rightfully belongs to Isaac.
What do you mean?
Who is to be the first of all our tribe, Abraham? The first star of all those stars in the heavens. Our son. Or hers.
Sarah.
Abraham. Abraham. You decide. Or let God decide.
Be brave.
Assured by God that they will survive, Abraham sends Hagar and Ishmael into the wilderness.
Goodbye, Ishmael. Oh, my boy. My boy. When you grow up, God will bless you with many children.
But according to Genesis chapter 21, verse number 14, it clearly shows that Ishmael was a baby being carried to Arabia.
From the Ishmael that the Torah called him a wild beast. Ishmael, Pere Adam.
There's approximately 1.8 billion Muslims. There are a lot of them, and they're spreading out all over this world and destabilizing the world. They are a wild people. They are an unruly people.
He says he will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand will be against him, and he will live to the east of all of his brothers. The conflict in the Middle East stems all the way back to this story.
فويل للذين يكتبون الكتاب بأيديهم ثم يقولون هذا من عند الله ليشتروا به ثمنا قليلا فويل لهم مما كتبت أيديهم وويل لهم مما يكسبون.
Palestinian lives are being destroyed. Men, women and children are getting shot, beaten, run over, bombed and killed.
They all seem so worried about the Palestinians. There's nothing to worry about. It's terrible. Do you like the racism?
I like racism?
Yeah. What do you think about the Palestinians not being able to walk along here?
I don't really think much
much about it.
It's because you don't think about other people, or?
Of course I do.
And then how can you not think when they can't walk here and they can't get the bus?
Zionism is a political and national movement aimed at creating and sustaining a Jewish state on Arab-Palestinian land in the Middle East. It's actually forbidden by God in the Jewish religion for Jews to establish a state until the arrival of the Messiah. If you don't know what settler colonialism is, it's a continuous process of land annexation whereby native inhabitants are removed and settlers from elsewhere are brought to occupy the land. On your phones, it looks like this.
Jacob, you know this is not your house.
Yes, but if I go, you don't go back. So what's the problem?
You are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it.
The Zionist state does not represent Torah through Jews. It is against, its existence is against the Torah, against Jewish law.
Hey YouTube, my name's Matthew, this is Cookbooks, and tonight I want to share with you something very fascinating that I learned quite some time ago, but I wanted to share it with you tonight because, well, it's very controversial. If you look in verse 10 of chapter 16, the angel of the Lord speaks to Hagar and says this: I will greatly increase your offspring, and they will not be counted for abundance. And the angel of the Lord said to her, Behold, you will conceive and give birth to a son. You shall name him Ishmael, for God has heard your prayer. And he shall be and then this is the particular spot that is the controversial spot. It says in this text, wild ass of a man, his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and over all his brothers shall he dwell. So, in verse 12, you have two phrases, two little words actually. You have wild ass, and you also have the word against. I'm going to share with something that you might find very fascinating. Like I said though, it's very controversial between Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, because you change the meaning of this section, you change the doctrine. You change the meaning of this section, you change the doctrine. So this is what you see right here for the word wild ass. That word up there is Pere, okay? And if you spell that in English, it's P-E-R-E and then probably an E or an H, okay? The next word down here says Bakal. Those two words are in question. Wild ass, and we had the word against. So let's talk about both of these words. So here's the thing though. Do those two words actually mean what they say in the Bible? If you look in your concordance, or if you have a dictionary of the Hebrew language, you will see that the word for wild ass is spelt just like you see on the screen. But there are also other words that are spelt the same way, but with different vowels. But back in the day, they didn't have vowels. So how do they know what that word actually means? You're supposed to go by context in that kind of circumstance. Just like in English, the word car, C-A-R, you take the vowel out, you're left with a C and an R. How do you know it's not the word care, C-A-R-E? Anyways, you go by context. What's very fascinating, though, is if you replace those two words with the words fruitful and with all or in all, this is what you come up with. So, starting in verse 10, The angel of the Lord said to her, I will greatly increase your offspring, and they will not be counted for abundance. That's the key phrase right there. And the angel of the Lord said to her, Behold, you will conceive and give birth to a son. You shall name him Ishmael, for God has heard your prayer. And he shall be a fruitful man, his hand with everyone, and everyone's hand with him. And over all his brothers shall he dwell. Well, that's a positive message. The other one was extremely negative. It makes you wonder why you have both ways to create this little paragraph. And from what I gather, I think it's anti-Semitism on Ishmael's line. See, the Jews and the Christians both say that Ishmael was not a part of God's covenant. So I really feel bad about Ishmael and his community because they get the short end of the stick, even shorter than the Jews today. You think that the Jews have it bad because of, World War II. Well, Islam, those people, they've had it even worse for centuries because of the reading of the text. And that's just not okay. I want to share something with you. Did you know that God's covenant is not to do with a superior race and how God holds the Jews over everybody because they are better than everybody else? That's not what it is, okay? It's so ridiculous. You actually follow through the whole story, going through the lineages of the elder sons, or at least the ones that become the patriarch of their community. And God puts them to a higher status because they are like the older brother. In some circumstances, they are the older brother. And you must look up to them to know how to live life. So it's so silly to think that Ishmael got kicked out of God's covenant. It can't happen. That's not possible. Remember, God's covenant was that Abraham was going to have many nations. That was the covenant. There's nothing else to it.
And the rule is, if one letter you erase from the Torah, one word, the Torah is not kosher. You can put it in a box and send it with UPS.
واذكر في الكتاب إسماعيل إنه كان صادق الوعد وكان رسولا نبيا وكان يأمر أهله بالصلاة والزكاة وكان عند ربه مرضيا